I'm Matt Verjanik from www.inlaybanding.com. I make and sell inlay bandings, and I'm going to show you how I made this banding. It's commonly known as a knot band, and it's made from solid walnut and maple. And here I've put a finish on this end so that you can see the nice color and grain of the wood. It's face grain, and it's something that I make and sell. And if you want to try to make it yourself, you follow this video. I'll show you how. I'm going to start with some walnut and some maple. Now you want to choose some pretty nice stock. You notice the walnut is all hardwood and the maple is all pretty white. If you're going to spend this much time making a banding, you want the wood to be the high quality stuff. Don't skimp on it. So the walnut I've resawn. It's 2 inches wide. And this is about 27 inches long, I believe. Length is not critical, but the width is pretty critical. So it's 2 inches wide, and it's resawn to a little bit over 3/8 of an inch thick, about 30 thousandths over. So this is about, 0.400 inches, or just a little over 3/8. The maple is a little over 3/16. I've cut it at about 210 thousandths, and I will thickness sand it to 0.1875, which is 3/16. So we're going to thickness sand this to 3/8. We're going to thickness sand this to 3/16, and then we're going to make a block. Okay, I'm going to glue up this block, and I'll probably do it in stages. I'll probably do it in maybe 3 stages, but you notice it's alternating walnut and maple, and it has a walnut and a walnut on both ends. Normally for most bandings you don't do this walnut on both ends, but in this case we will, and I'll just tell you why later. But anyway, I just take these and roll out the glue evenly. And just keep right on going, and then we'll clamp it up. I wanted to talk a little bit about this stuff while I'm gluing it. Now, this stuff has to be milled precisely. Has to be square when you're finished with the block, and these pieces need to be exactly the same. They can be, these are actually about 0.372, whereas 3/8 of an inch is 0.375, and the 3/16 ones are about 0.185 instead of 0.1875, which is fine as long as they're consistent. And they need to be exactly the same, and you need to mill them on a thickness sander. A planer is just not going to be accurate enough. You're going to have some, some snipe, and you're just not going to get an accurate thickness with a plane. You need to use a thickness sander. And I've got a small thickness sander, but it works just fine. That's the one I use right there, that Performax 1020. It's actually better than a big one for this kind of work, because I never sand any big pieces normally, just small stuff, so that works really good. Okay, I've got the block glued up, and I've surface sanded it on both sides, thickness sanded it, and it has to be square. Has to be square. If it's not square, you'll end up with a bunch of kindling wood. Okay, you notice I have a sled. It's a crosscut sled, and everything has to be set up. I've checked that's 90 degrees, and this of course is 90 degrees because I've had it set up before. I've got a micro stop in here. It's a little fence made by Microfence that tells me how far it is. I'm going to slice this block. You don't need this. You can set up a temporary fence of any kind, but this just makes it quicker, and I make so much banding that I need the speed. So anyway, I'm going to slice this at about 0.395, which the end product I want to be 0.370. So I'll leave enough to where I can sand it down in the thickness sander to get it exactly where I want it. I'm just going to cross cut these pieces so that they look like this. And the thickness of this, like I said, is 0.395 right now. I'll run it through the thickness sander, make it 0.370, because that's how thick I made the walnut here, was 0.370, maybe 0.372. And I want that walnut piece to be exactly a square. So 370 by 370, and then we'll go to the next step. Okay, so I've got all these, and they're been surface sanded, and they're all exactly just a hair under 3/8. So at all intents and purposes, they're 3/8 of an inch thick. They're actually 0.372 about. So, and they have to be consistent. If they were, you know, 5/1000ths over, 5/1000ths under, not a problem. But they need to be consistent. So when I cut these walnut strips and sanded them to 372, so I want to try to get this to be the same. So it's 372. So I've got all those sanded. I also cut maple pieces almost the same size. When I say they're almost the same size, they're about 1/8 of an inch shorter. I don't know if you can see that, but they're 3/16, so they're half this width, and they're the same width. They're 2 inches wide, and they're just a little bit shorter, about 1/8 of an inch shorter. What I'm going to do, I'm going to glue these up. And I'm going to leave that, like I said, these maple pieces are about 1/8 of an inch shorter. So I'm going to leave that about 1/16 of an inch off of each end of that last piece of walnut. And I'm just going to put a caul on there, and I'm going to hold these together with spring clamps. I don't want to use C-clamps because I don't want to get too much clamping pressure on them. I found that if you put too much clamping pressure, you actually will distort them a little bit, and it's important that these are very accurate. So anyway, I'm going to glue all these the same way, same thing I did there, and then we'll proceed to the next step.